Hey everybody, this is Jesse B. Gilmore, agency transformation coach and founder of Niche in Control, creator of Leverage for Growth.
And I'm Lucas James, founder of Twiz.io, which scaled from $0 to $200,000 a month with my own agency.
We are the hosts of Leverage for Growth podcast agency leverage episodes. We know that in order to scale your agency successfully, there are multiple shifts that need to happen within the founder's mindsets, skill sets, and leadership styles. We are on a mission to interview marketing and PR agency owners on their journey to 6, 7, and 8 figures and leverage the lessons from their journey to save you time, energy, and money in order for you to get your agency to the next level. If you find value in these episodes, watch the case study video to learn more about Leverage for Growth and how we successfully scale agencies quickly at nicheincontrol.com/case study. That's nicheincontrol.com/case study. You are now listening to Leverage for Growth. Hey everybody, this is Jesse P. Gilmore, founder of Niche in Control and creator of Leverage for Growth. Welcome to the Agency Leverage Edition. Today, I am here with Barrett Bogue, founder of Evocati, a public relations agency that empowers clients with a cost-efficient means of communicating, activating, and inspiring underserved communities. Thanks for coming to our show today.
Thanks, Jesse. Really appreciate it. Really happy to be here.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the history and background of your agency?
Yeah, so I founded the company in 2018. And to understand kind of the why, we have to go back to my own journey as a military veteran. I served in Iraq, and I joke with people, I took a gap year in between my bachelor and master's degree and spent it in Iraq. And I came back home to school and I found a college that was deeply, deeply respectful of my service and wanted to support me, but they didn't know how. And that's where my passion for the military connected community was born. And I took that passion into the Presidential Management Fellows Program, where I was accepted into an analyst role with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And one of the first things that I worked on was this piece of legislation called the new GI Bill for a New Century. And the GI Bill pays for service members and their loved ones to go to school. And it would have represented the largest expansion of the GI Bill since World War II, which is credited with building the middle class in America. And we reviewed it and said it was going to be so expensive that there's no way in heck that this thing was going to become law. And 9 months later, it was law, and we had 12 months to implement it. So we were going to go from a $3 billion allocation a year to around $12 billion. And we had 12 months to get it ready. And part of that was in marketing and messaging to prospective veterans and service members who wanted to use the GI Bill. And at the time, Facebook and Facebook groups were becoming popular, and I was using them, but the people higher up in the chain of command didn't have a lot of experience in social media. Mm-hmm. So I dumbly said, I'll take the lead on doing this. And that's really where my passion for PR and storytelling was born, was in kind of activating that community of service members and veterans to go and apply for the GI Bill. So I did that, and I worked for about 15 years in various executive roles in the federal and nonprofit sectors, primarily in digital marketing, PR, and comms. And I was about to turn 40, and I had an identity crisis. And said if I didn't start a business before I turned 40, I wasn't going to do it. So I went to my boss, Jared, at the time, and I said, hey man, here's my 2-week notice. I'm going to do this business called Evocati. Yeah, it's a silly name. And that was it. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything to my name. I just knew that I wanted to go and try and start an agency. And that was in 2018. And so since then, we've grown and adapted, and I know we'll dive deeper into that and some of the lessons learned. But Evocati is Latin for reservist, which is what I was. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve, and I was activated for the Iraq War. And we started as I was a solopreneur. So we started as a one-person shop. doing PR and marketing for clients, as well as consulting projects for clients that really was focused in on a lot of research as well. And then we pivoted to doing PR full time, and I'll talk about why in a moment. But that's where we are today.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I like how it was kind of born out of, there was kind of like a calling part of it where you're like, oh, I got to do this before I'm 40. There was also kind of like this identification of need, like no one else was stepping up, and so you kind of took that over. Has that kind of been a theme in your life where you're kind of going in a certain direction, and then you realize that there's kind of a need or a lack within the environment, and you kind of go, okay, I'm gonna be the person that kind of goes into that, or
It is that if you're familiar with the Clifton strengths,
yeah.
One of my primary strengths is maximizer. So I'm like a sponge, and I have to like soak up everything that in this moment that I'm trying to do or that I'm trying to learn. But once I have maximized all of it, I feel like I've plateaued. And so I was at a point in my career at VA where I didn't want to go any higher in the organization. So I went to the nonprofit sector and in leading change and PR there. And at that point, we had a major legislative victory, and I already felt like I'd kind of proven myself and learned everything I wanted. So the next thing was, well, what about starting a business? There's a lot of opportunity out there in entrepreneurship. It's very scary. But I had to keep telling myself, like, you survived Iraq and Paris Island. There's nothing that's going to be as scary as that, comparatively speaking. So I always look for opportunities that I can maximize personally and professionally. And entrepreneurship has been the one thing that has consistently filled my cup for the longest time. It's been great.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So on your journey with the new agency, no business plan, kind of diving right in head first. Talk a little bit about that journey. How did you learn, how to run a successful agency through trial and error? Like how have you gotten to where you are today?
I think so, for those of you who are, just starting out, one of the things there's really two things that I did that I would impress upon your audience. I gave myself permission to fail. I did not take the failure is not an option approach, or the you've got to do 1,000% grit, get up at 5 a.m. kind of thing. It was no. Instead, it's okay if you fail. And here's the timeline. I gave myself a year, and I gave myself a metric. If I'm not profitable, and if I'm married with 2 kids, if our family is not able to sustain the lifestyle that we want, then I would close the business. I said, like, within a year, if we're not at that point and we haven't meet these metrics or are not meeting these metrics, then I'm going to close the business. And lesson learned, I can always go back to the nonprofit sector or the federal or private sector if I wanted to. And that was a really, it's almost like I kind of tricked myself into not failing. But it gave me an opportunity to really radically focus in on what are the elements that I need to work on in order to be a successful entrepreneur, especially with the agency. So the other thing that I determined was I need to be the best prepared, best educated business owner and CEO. Before I take on employees, before I expand the company, before I do any of that, I need to know what I'm doing. So, a lot of reading books, listening to a lot of podcasts, but I also joined a nonprofit called Bunker Labs, which is a nonprofit to help veterans and military connected entrepreneurs establish and scale their businesses. So I was selected into the veteran residence cohort, which is a partnership that they have at WeWork. And it's almost like a mastermind in how it's structured. I was also accepted into a leadership development program at the George W. Bush Institute called the Stand To Veteran Leadership Program. And both of those provided the just invaluable skills, but most importantly, the relationships and networking necessary to sustain Evocati PR and to scale the business. So those are two things right there that made an indelible impact on the company.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very cool. And so where you're at right now, like how big is your team? You talked about being a solopreneur, and now do you have some people working for you?
I do. So in looking at the company, I added a CEO to the firm, Mark Szymanski, and he and I had worked together previously. Mark is a wonderfully talented, one of the best in the business, especially in the nonprofit advocacy space. I brought him on board as CEO to manage the day-to-day client interaction as well as the team. And then from there, we did a lot of due diligence in looking at what could we afford to hire. And so since then, we've been able to add multiple employees, and then we also have contractors on the team as well. So it is challenging building out and scaling. But I think for us, we're constantly iterating, and we're constantly talking about different scenarios about who could fit where and what do we need to meet this need, and where are we going to be a year from now, et cetera. So yeah, it's not just me anymore, which is great. My role has changed. With Mark as the CEO, I was doing everything, obviously, and where I've seen my role change significantly over the past 8 months is my external title was president and founder, but internally I'm operating more as a COO, and founder, trying to get and like sales as well, trying to get clients, building out the team, taking care of all the legal stuff, the paperwork. I mean, tons and tons of paperwork as well. So I'm doing that while Mark is concentrating on making sure our clients feel satisfied.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And through that time of kind of growth, and then bringing on kind of like your right hand, or vice versa, you talked a lot about kind of like role transitions and
Yeah.
kind of having to shift your own identity within the business. And I know that that's something that a lot of people, when they're at the 6-figure and trying to get to 7-figure, there is a role transition that has to happen either mentally or like actual position changes. What would you say to somebody that maybe is either a little bit nervous about making a role change, or nervous about maybe bringing on somebody that could actually run the day-to-day for them?
Well, it's a challenging decision to make. It requires a lot of thought and input. Mark and I, we were in a period of due diligence from January through July. So this was a months-long decision. So that by the time we got to July and had to sign everything, the signature and doing all that was the easiest part. So certainly give it a lot of thought. You were only under the deadline that you give yourself in that case. But what I've seen is, if you want to grow your agency, you have to take a step back and say, I'm the person with the vision, and it's my responsibility to delegate that out towards people, for action. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in this really difficult loop and almost kind of like stuck in the mud. And you're not going to experience you're not going to leverage any growth out of that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. You got to lean into it.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Yep.
Cool. So what is success for you in Evocati in the next like 1 to 3 years? What are you working on? What are you getting excited about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So during the due diligence phase with Mark, I said earlier that we were doing marketing and comms and consulting primarily in the military connected sector. And what I saw was that the real revenue growth potential was in PR and marketing with clients, that there were so many other nonprofits and well-established companies offering consulting services in that space that we could do it, but we couldn't compete. And what I was doing unintentionally was I was creating two different businesses inside of one that required two different models, and two different pricing sheets, et cetera. And so I was like, no wonder I feel torn and like I'm spinning my wheels right now. So I needed to focus in on one area. And so what we decided to do was get rid of, I shouldn't say it like that, but we paused the consulting side of the company. And we no longer do consulting. We don't do research projects or papers or anything like that for military connected clients. And we did an assessment of like, what do we do really well as a team? And what we saw was we are very effective at storytelling and anything that requires a call to action for clients. And we enjoy, as our team is primarily made up of military connected people, we didn't want to lose sight of what we really kind of consider as our heritage within the military connected community. But a lot of the skills and traits, products and services that we offer for those military connected clients can really work for anybody, but specifically we know they can work well in other underserved communities. And when we say underserved, we mean people in communities that aren't traditionally reached by PR or haven't traditionally had an agency to represent them. So one really good example is historically Black colleges and universities. Wonderful, wonderful institutions. They have incredible stories to tell. And we found an opportunity with an HBCU. It started out as a consulting project, and then it turned into a PR effort where they decided that they were going to make 4 years of undergraduate free for anybody connected to the military in any era. So from Vietnam to today, anybody could enroll. And we were like, this is huge. So, we developed out a national campaign. We got them featured in the Washington Post. We did a whole launch at Fort Bragg down in North Carolina. We got local and regional coverage. And about 4 days later, they reached out to us and they said that our phone lines are melting. Like, we are getting so many inquiries. They got 600 applications in less than 30 days. Just for they're doing it through a scholarship. And they just enrolled, I think it was the largest freshman class in like the last 30 years. And their military connected students skyrocketed because of that. See, like, that's a really good example of the stories that we can tell and the work that we can do. So what are we looking forward to is more of that and finding those opportunities. We've transitioned into the agriculture sector and telling stories about American growers, American farmers, and just the ag sector in general. And any other opportunities out there like that, we're really interested in pursuing and serving.
Awesome. So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you, Barrett? Or do you have any offers for them that they could take advantage of?
So if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn. More than happy to talk to any agency owner, especially those of you who are just starting out. I'd be happy to talk to you about the mistakes that I made in order to help you not make those same mistakes. If you want to learn more about our company and reach out to me, just go to Evocati PR, EVOCATIPR.com, and just click contact us, and you can learn more today. The call for anybody who's listening right now is we put a lot out on our company page on LinkedIn, and we have a lot of fun on there as well. For example, we did a really cool crossover 2 weeks ago was National Potato Chip Day. And so we celebrated, it was National Potato Chip Day and National Pie Day at the same time. So potato chips, potatoes, because one of our clients is the National Potato Council. One of our team members, he made a chocolate pie that had a potato chip crust, and he made that for National Potato Chip Day, National Pie Day. And we celebrated that and put that recipe up on LinkedIn. It was really fun. I mean, credit to him and the team. They had a great time doing that. But that, and then we put news, tips, and resources for agency owners, but also if you're just if you're a chief marketing officer, we also have a heart for the director of comms or marketing in the nonprofit landscape, the person who's wearing a lot of hats inside that organization. If that's you, definitely come to our LinkedIn page and join it today, because we have a lot of information to share with you. That's it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, for anybody that's listening, all the links for Barrett and Evocati will be in our show notes. And I just want to say thank you very much for being on the show, Barrett.
It's my privilege. Thank you.
Agency owners, if you want to transform your agency to sustain and grow without your direct involvement, where you can stop working in the business and switch to working on the business, where you can regain control of your time, delegate effectively, get paid what you're worth, and have your team run the day-to-day, go to nicheincontrol.com/case study right now to learn more about Leverage for Growth. You can book a free strategy session with us to look at your systems, understand what needs to be done in order for you to scale, and get a free strategic plan for the next year to live the life of entrepreneurship that you've always dreamed about. Go to nicheincontrol.com/case study. That is nicheincontrol.com/case study now.